If you want to be a real estate agent in Dubai, watch this video. I'm going to tell you what you need to do to be successful and, more importantly, what not to do. I think you've got to come with a positive mental attitude for sure. And you've got to assume that it's going to be easy. You can go on the internet, you go on Instagram, you can see all these agents driving around in flash cars, buying new watches, going on very expensive holidays. I can assure you that's probably 1 or 2% of all agents in Dubai are actually able to afford to do those sorts of things. And it literally is very much the first couple of percent. You've got to assume that a large majority of our people will not make money out of real estate. If I had my time again, the advice I would give myself when I started over 20 years ago, assume that it's going to end sometime. So what I mean by that is that you don't go out and spend your commission before you've actually received it. And perhaps also maybe put a lot of that commission aside because it's not going to be a regular or constant source of income being a real estate agent here in Dubai. There are peaks and troughs. So you just need to budget accordingly. And I think also you've got to realize it's probably going to take you anything from 2 to 3 years before you feel 100% or more confident about being a good advisor to your clients and getting a reasonably regular income from this job. It's like any business. You're pretty much self-employed. It's a commission-only basis. Very few real estate agents here, apart from people who work for developers, have a salary. So it's commission-based. So you have to tighten your belt for a while. And you may have a bit of luck at the beginning, but don't assume that luck's going to carry on. The company I work for, we work on 5 very specific values. And I think that those values are really good advice for anybody who wants to come and be a real estate agent. I'm going to paraphrase them, okay? One is that when you come to work, spend your time working. You know, this is your time to work. But also what's important is that when you're not at work, go and enjoy yourself, but don't go crazy. Turn up to work the next day, feel fit, feel refreshed. So take it seriously, definitely at the beginning. Okay, so work. Whenever you're talking to clients, talking to your colleagues, talking to your bosses, talking to developers, talking to agents or sellers or other people, when you say you're going to do something, do it. That's very important because trust is probably the most difficult thing to gain and the easiest thing to lose. So doing what you say is incredibly important. And it's not a value that is easy to come by in this market or anywhere else in the world. The other one, again, I'm going to paraphrase, is, and it's all about positivity. There's no point in being negative about things. You know, if you're not doing sales, etc., don't be negative. Think about why it is you're doing it. Look at it from a positive point of view. You're learning. I go on lots of meetings with clients and I don't sell anything. And I mean lots of meetings. But the way I look at it very positively in the fact that I've learned something. I've met someone really good. Maybe he's going to refer me to someone in the future, but at least I'm going to learn something. And maybe he's going to tell me about a property that I didn't know anything about, or maybe he's going to tell me about a process that I didn't know anything about, or maybe some interesting news that's going to affect my future sales. So be positive and also proactive. So constantly go out there and talk about what you do. There's no problem. Don't be ashamed of being a real estate agent. Tell people that you're a real estate agent. And maybe, I know from my friends, you know, it's taken me many years to get to where, you know, to be as successful as I am now, but it's really longevity and just sticking at it. Another one that, you know, there's a sales line, you know, 2 ears, 1 mouth. And yeah, it's a bit overused, but it's true. You can't just phone up someone and say, right, I've got this property for you. This is really good. You've got to buy it. You really should be understanding what your investor or your client is looking for. If he says he wants a 1-bedroom apartment in JVC, don't go and offer him a 2-bedroom apartment in Dubai Hills because there's probably a good reason why he's buying a 1-bedroom apartment in JVC. He might have already decided that's all he wants. So I think listening is probably a skill that a lot of people don't have when they first start here. They're all very keen to start selling, sell, sell. And they're being told by their bosses, sell, sell, sell. But actually, I think it's a good idea just to sit back and listen. and learn exactly what the strategy of the investor is, or your buyer is, and what his family are looking for, what he's looking for, what his timescales are, what his budget is, what type of property does he really want. So listening. And then I think the most important thing is you've got to stop thinking about yourself, stop thinking about commission, and we call it obsessing over customers. So obsess over your clients. Look after their interests. You're acting on their behalf. You're not looking after developers. You're not looking after your bosses. Yes, ultimately, your bank balance is affected by all those different factors that you might be doing in your job. But don't chase commissions. Work in the best way possible for your client. Obsess over your customers and over your clients. Most people who have no experience, I would always suggest that you go into leasing and rentals, especially if you don't have very much money stuck behind you, because you're going to earn money quite quickly. Save up some of that money and then go into sales, because when you go into sales, it's going to take you a good 3 to 6 months before you start making any money at all. Okay, but rentals, you can make money pretty much immediately. Give it a few weeks after you've started and you can start finding tenants for properties. If you are doing resales or secondary sales or leasing, you really need to choose an area and specialize in that area. And then you will know all the prices, all the rentals, all the landlords, all the availability, all the security guards, where to park, where to meet clients, etc. And you'll know all the facilities, where all the schools are, the hospitals, the shops, etc. And you can really provide a very good service to your clients. If you're trying to spread yourself thinly across all of Dubai and doing resales, that's quite the difficult thing to do. You'll never really be an expert on everything in Dubai. If you're selling off-plan properties, I think it's much more about building trust and relationships with people. If you're selling secondary or doing leasing, it's much more about knowing your properties and getting properties on board. So you're selling properties. When you're selling off-plan, it's about building relationships, a lot more about relationships. I'm not saying that people who are selling resale properties don't have to build relationships. They do. They have to have a very good relationship, but it's a fairly brief relationship. It's with an owner who wants to sell and a buyer who wants to buy. Now, if you're lucky enough to have a buyer who buys a lot or a seller who sells a lot, then yes, that's a relationship you want to work on. But most cases, that isn't the case. It's a fairly short-term relationship. I think the one thing that makes people fail on general is that they look at it as a very short-term business. And they do a deal, and then they walk away, and they don't even pick up the phone to that client ever again. Those are the people that fail. They just look at it as a money-making exercise. And obviously, look, don't get me wrong, we're all in it to make money. The investors are in it to make money, the sellers, the buyers, everybody's in it because it's all about money at the end of the day. But if you have the mindset that when you sell a property or you lease a property, that's the end of the relationship, and you walk away and you don't pick up the phone, and I hear this all the time, you are never going to be successful. You might make some money, you might make a few good relationships, but you're continually rebuilding and starting again, and that's a very difficult place to be. And on the same vein, the people that are really successful, and certainly for me, the one that gives me the most amount of pleasure is when a client phones me and says, I've got a client for you. That's such a great thing to hear. And that's, for me, the measure of success. And that doesn't happen overnight, yeah? That takes time to build that kind of relationship or flow of business. One of the things I found really useful for me is to set goals, whether they be number of apartments or properties I want to sell, number of clients I want to make, or amount of money I want to make, or the number of calls I'm going to make each day. But I think it's very important to set goals, and it sort of focuses the mind somewhat every day when you come into the office. And you think, right, what have I got to do today? Rather than going to have that 6 cup of coffee, is actually look at your goals and stick to them. And don't fool yourself into thinking that you can do it without that. There's a process. There's a process for everything, okay? And if you find out what the right process is, and people in your company will know what that process is, listen to that process, stick to that process, and then at some point in the future, you may not have to stick to that process because you're going to be so successful. You're going to have your own process. But at the beginning, there's a process to get into this market. There's a process to start building relationships and learning about the the market, learning about properties, learning about your area, etc. Listen to your peers, go through that process, follow it, and don't try and do something else. I've seen that so many times. People come into this market thinking, yeah, it's not really what I want to do. I want to do it that my way. And it doesn't work, especially at the beginning. Yes, when you've had 15 or 20 years experience, you can go and do what you like. If you're really that successful, fantastic. Go and play golf every day and do your business on the golf course. No issues with that. But at the beginning, you've got to just work hard. Work hard, build relationships, build trust, and increase your product knowledge about the market, the history of Dubai, and the kind of properties you want to be promoting or working with. If you need any help with off-plan property in Dubai, please get in touch. All my contact details are in the description below.